Washington Outsider report on the Coalition Radio. For those newly joining the program, my name is Irina Zuckerman, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the Washington Outsider. With us today is Mr. Michael Corech. He's a researcher and expert on issues such as OSINT, the far right, trust and safety, and web intelligence. And he is currently based in Barcelona. So the reason why I was interested in this discussion is his recent report focusing on a neo-Nazi satanic cult, which apparently is also drawing in its children as young as 12. These types of extremist groups have been proliferating lately, and it's kind of hard to keep track of all of them. But before we get into this topic and what this is and why anyone would be attracted to such a thing, please tell us a little bit about yourself by way of introduction to our audience.
Oh, my name is Michael Corech, and I've been following global far-right movements for the last 10 years. 5 years ago, I started working for ActiveFence. I worked there for 4 years in the far-right department. And now I'm working as a freelance, but still advising companies regarding far-right radicalization online and issues like that.
So, how exactly did you stumble into the subject of your article? What first drew your attention to Nicholas Krieg, and what compelled you to pursue this investigation further?
Well, I think that I follow a lot of what is called accelerationist groups on various social media. I'm very interested in accelerationist movements. Accelerationists are basically people, right, who believe that this society is so bad, is so corrupt because of race mixing, and because Jews control it, that their job is to actually make it collapse. And they believe that they should make it collapse by terrorist attacks. A lot of terrorists in the past were connected to this movement, and the attacks are varied. But for them, for example, Brenton Tarrant that killed 51 Muslim worshippers in New Zealand is a saint. So they worship and glorify also people who've done the terrorist acts. And I'm very interested in them, not mainly because they're so dangerous. Or they tried to radicalize and to get them to actually do these terror acts. And this is how I stumbled on this group. I followed a couple of these accounts, and I saw that they were sharing an invite to their Telegram and Signal group, and I joined and started monitoring.
Is there a central point of coordination for various accelerationist groups, or are they just basically independent splinter movements?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Is there a central coordinating committee or authority for accelerationist movements, or are they basically independent splinters?
No, no. Yes, they're very independent. There's no one leader or one leadership. They unite based on belief in terror acts. and deep nihilism, as in the case of this group that as I researched. No, there's no one place that they all organize and they all kind of come together. It's very, it's very anarchistic in this sense. And the group that I interesting is that they come from different places. So the group that the Milakovic group basically came from places like Guatemala, Greek, Britain, United States, and Turkey. So you see this kind of an international users that radicalize one another, and that I think is very alarming.
Well, given the group's obscurity compared to more widely known networks such as Atomwaffen or NLM, how did you uncover the activities and Signal, which is supposed to be uh, super private?
Well, part of what these groups always try to do is to recruit new members, to radicalize new people, and to get them kind of act, to to get them do the terror acts, and this is how you can gain access even into suppose closed groups because they always want to expand. They always want to get new members and to have those members kind of do um, get radicalized and go do the terror activity. So you can, if you research enough, you can always find links to these groups. There is a part of my work that includes um, a lot of kind of taking or becoming someone else. You need to have avatars, and you need to kind of like have a mindset of someone that they would want to recruit, someone that would appeal to their hateful message, and that's yeah. You need to play the act. It's kind of a little bit of acting online.
How would you define the ideological or spiritual glue that binds neo-Nazism and Satanism in this organization?
I would say, I mean, you mentioned Atomwaffen, and Atomwaffen, I think what bind them together was the ideology of the Order of Nine Angles and Temple of Blood in the U.S. But I think that what I see now more is just deep nihilism, deep hatred towards society, towards people, towards anyone and anything. So it's not even about white people vs black people and Jews. It's just about killing everybody.
How many members would you say are there?
How many what?
Members, how many people comprise this network?
I would say thousands of people at least. I would say thousands. I would, yeah, between 1,000 to a couple of 10,000, 20,000, I would say. Yeah.
That's a pretty significant network.
Yes, then the danger again is it's in its harm. The danger again is in terror acts, in the exploitation of people, sextortion of young adults. Compared to the numbers, they do a lot of harm, in my opinion.
Were there any particular signs early on suggesting that this group is a more active threat than others of its type?
I think they were. I mean, I finished my investigation in June, and the article was published, I think, last week. I'm not sure how active they are now, but since I checked, there is new groups that that came to life that again sharing links to Telegram to Signal. They have maybe a different name, but it's the same kind of ideology, same kind of like um, modus operandi. So even if this group would seem to be active, there is always new groups that come about and try to achieve the same goals, unfortunately.
How do you navigate the ethical boundary between observation and intervention when witnessing potentially criminal plans unfold? If these people are planning terrorism or any sort of violent attack, at what point do you decide that, it's time to turn it over to the authorities or to try to disrupt them in some way?
I mean, the first opportunity, or when I feel that there is a danger, I turn it over to the authorities. I don't have questions. If one of them hints or make a remark that I did someone else getting harm,
Mhm.
or I turn it immediately at that point to the various authorities. No.
Is there always a clear line between fantasies and theoretical discussions and planning or conspiratorial sort of scheming?
I mean, what do you mean by that? Can you break down the question a little bit?
At what point do you decide that the group is moving past the stage of just fantasies and wishful thinking into the realm of a conspiracy, criminal plan?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would say there are three. First is the recruitment. They go into social media and they try to other users to come to these closed groups. Uh, I don't know if there's such a danger because they're just trying to spread a message that might be racist or might be on the border of free speech. And once they get people into their closed groups, there is a second stage, which is radicalization. With radicalization, you see a lot of gore videos. You see sharing of uh, of material, uh, books, and then stage, and then after that comes the third, which is to talk uh, about criminal activity, about activity. Um, so and that comes usually with sharing PDFs of how to be sharing addresses of places.
Mhm.
Sorry, can you
Yes.
repeat your last question?
Do you know anything about about the origins of this particular network? Who founded it and how did that come about specifically?
I don't know. It's a great question. I wish I could know because that would be give me more understanding of the group. I came across them on when they were still trying to recruit people, getting people to join the group,
Mm-hmm.
spreading the link on Instagram and TikTok, and before they were noticed and banned. And I think the core group were between 5 to 6 people. And when I joined the Signal, they were going to 40, 50 people already.
So would you say there's probably more than one signal group or just the one that you know of?
I know that there are two Signal groups, and there might be more groups of this particular, clique. movement. Yeah, there might be more that I don't know about. There might be more of yeah of hardcore kind of like the people who funded the group. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Psychological or emotional patterns did you observe in how they recruit children, especially the younger ones, the preteens and such?
Um, I mean, spreading the link comes with images that shows people wearing masks, holding guns, and statement like Jews are garbage, kill all Jews, or join your terrorist group. And I think it's the first kind of barrier that people would join. If you see this and you still join, then you're probably already a little bit kind of like into this or kind of accepting this kind of um, of propaganda of images. I would say, I mean, they would go into, for example, places that or social media talking about, I don't know, murders happening by black people, and then they would spread the link in the comments, kind of looking for people who would say something very racist or something very, very unappealing and kind of share the link with them. Or they would go to Telegram with people in groups that are already part of this kind of mindset, and they would share the links over there. And then there is also just plain and simple trying to get people who don't really know what they're getting into. I mean, the underdogs, so they would share images, even innocent images. I would say some of them were kind of innocent. Just showing people with guns or showing some military formation that you don't really know what is behind it, but it gets your curiosity. And then once you join the group, I mean, if you manage to survive all the radicalization, then yeah, you can be part of it already. You get into the group.
How did you, let me put it this way. If you end up joining these things, how do you, how is zealous is the process of vetting the people who join those groups? Are they careful about the membership? Or is it very risky for somebody like you to join, you know,
So,
um,
yeah, some of them have a vetting. Yes, there
mhm,
are lists of questions that you need to answer. And that's again goes back to acting. You need to kind of answer the vetting questions in a way that would answer their kind of profile of who they would want to recruit. And each group is different.
mm,
Um, and some of them don't have vetting, meaning some of them would get you into the group and say, okay, if you already managed to get so far, you're probably part of us. Yes, they're very paranoid. They always feel or think, I would say, just, it's justified for them to think this way because they
mhm.
always believe that the FBI is looking at them and they live in but on the other hand, they really want to expand. They really want more people to believe in their set of ideology.
Mm. So it's a sort of a balancing act between security and advocacy of their spread
Exactly.
of their ideas.
Exactly.
And to what extent would you say
Yes.
social media has played a facilitating role? Or I wouldn't just say social media because obviously on social media, communication is easy in general, but I'm talking about the specific trends of boosting far right voices, I would say.
I think that, I mean, if I'm understanding your question correctly, I think that social media is can do more in yeah in not aiding users to become more radicalized. I think that in social media, in various social media, the minute that you click on one video,
Mm-hmm.
you automatically would get suggestion to another video and another video, and that represent the same kind of far right ideology.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I can say it with my avatars as well, like, and even with my personal social media account, that I sometimes follow some of these groups, and I can see that more and more I'm offering videos that correspond to the same kind of far right, racist, anti-Semitic, accelerationist ideology. So I think yes, I think that social media should do more, and there is a lot of things to do regarding it. Even with the, let's say, with the ability to tag posts. You know, a lot of people would tag posts with a certain keywords
Mm-hmm.
that stuff that would look to us innocent, but for them would represent something much more sinister. For example, you know, again, I'm going back to Tarrant. So
Mm-hmm.
Brenton Tarrant. So if you want to look for videos of Brenton Tarrant on social media, one of the tags is 51 because he killed 51 Muslim warships.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, it looks innocent or doesn't make sense, but this is one way for them to get people to find a whole group of posts or videos that belong to the same kind of far right ideology.
At what point would you say they transition from these broad social media interactions to private signal networks? At what point they decide that they need to take this offline? Does that signal that they're moving from general rhetoric to a planning stage?
Yeah, so in general, they know that they can be much more free to speak and share stuff. I mean, if they start writing on TikTok, we need to kill all the Jews, they're not going to survive very long. It's at a
Mm-hmm.
certain point, or on Instagram, on Facebook, or at a certain point, you know, they're going to be noticed. So they have to take the conversation at a certain point from social media that would shut them down or makes their conversation much more difficult, to a place that they can be much more free to express their real view. So on social media, they would try to use different words or to jump, you know, to use different symbols to write, let's say, Hitler with spelling it differently. You know, so the social media monitoring tools and people would not notice it. So there is a lot of hoops that they need to jump through when they put content on social media, which is why they need to take the conversation, especially when they want to radicalize new people into closed spaces that they are much fear to share stuff. It would be enormously difficult for them to share a PDF of BAM manuals on social media, but on closed spaces, it's easier.
So essentially, in terms of recruitment, it would be accurate to say that they propagandize the activity to the level they think it's acceptable and can join the hardcore believers, and then the self-selected few end up joining these more private networks, and then they, feel they can take it to the next level. So how do they identify who is ripe for the next stage versus who is just a big talker or potential threat or just somebody not trustworthy enough to invite into these private networks?
Well, there is the recruitment that they do based on people who post stuff that correspond to their beliefs. So if somebody would say, would write, Brenton Tarrant is my hero,
Mm-hmm.
they would try to approach you. That's an example. Another tactic is to just to share the link far and wide, and then once people get to the closed group, to see who survive, who stays. You know, me and you, we're not going to stay in a group that keeps posting anti-Semitic material. But if you manage to survive, if you manage to get radicalized, if you manage to stay for long, that means that you're part of the group.
And in terms of approaching younger people, in what ways does the group manipulate adolescent development stages, such as identity formation or rebellion towards radicalization?
Well, I think that they use the first stage that they use is the kind of alienation that a young adult feels.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this, they identify it very clearly, and they basically the solution to it is either that the Jews are at fault, or that they should burn the whole world down. It's a very simple answers to a very complex questions that young adults are dealing with, and yeah, it's I think this is one of the ways that they get young adults. They correspond to the sense of kind of despair or depression, and the solution to it is just to lash out, which I think when you're a young adult or when you're a teenager, it might actually sound, to some people, sound appealing.
So how do you know which young adults are the ones who are, you know, in those groups? Are they looking for groups that are already kind of self-radicalized, like incel groups and or people with those like Andrew Tate followers, those types of interest groups, or they just randomly identify people based on what they post on the internet?
Both, I would say both. I think that the Andrew Tate, the incel community, is very much immersed in hateful of women. So I think it would appeal to someone who is more, I don't know, that find it hard to date women, feels that women or blames women for him not managing to form a meaningful relationship with women. So I think that would be attractive to this kind of profile. Um, and the other part is people who just, but I can see a person who comes from the incel kind of ideology jumping into this nihilist neo-Nazi ideology. I can see crossing over. Um, and does that answer your question, or?
Yeah, but I'm curious because let's say somebody at 13 or 14 may not have the social skills or the confidence to form meaningful social relationships, whether with the opposite sex or with anybody. But the same people can grow up to be successful adults, overcoming their issues and so on and so forth. So, not everybody who is an awkward teenager will become some sort of a, miserable incel person. To some extent that sort of mentality has to be cultivated. Otherwise, people can simply overcome their issues and learn how to, you know, become more, be able to
I,
socialize better. So,
I totally agree with you.
mhm,
I don't, it's not my expertise, so it's hard for me to tell you what is the profile
mhm.
of the lone wolf, of the person who would become radicalized. I don't know how to answer it, but it's a great question. I would try to say that it's a person who has been dealing with being outcast. But again,
Mhm.
but like you say, a lot of people are outcast, and they grow up, they get out of it, they find ways to cope. It's hard for me to answer this.
Mm.
Like,
I
who is
mean,
the person? Who is the profile?
I mean, I guess if people don't have that social structure to help them, if their family is dysfunctional or aggressive or encourages that sort of mentality, that they're
I
probably more
think that there
likely. Yeah.
is, I think that, yes, they're probably more likely. You're right. The background, the family,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, social history, definitely. But on the other hand, you have a lot of examples of, you know, mass shooters who came from families who were functioning. I
Mm-hmm.
just saw an interview with one of the mothers of one of the shooters of the Columbine shooting at the high
Mm-hmm.
school, and she talked about her son, and she seemed to be very normative. She seemed to be he grew up in a family that seems to be fine, you know. So yes, I think that you're right, I also think that some of those people who go out to shoot, or um, like a person who is very glorified in the incel community. One second, let me just get is I forgot his name. He murdered a couple of people in a college in the U.S.
Mm.
Um, I forgot his name. But he grew up in a very seemed like a very loving family, and he and his father talked about him again as someone who was suffering from maybe a little bit of depression, but not something that is out of the ordinary. And so so I'm not sure how to answer this question. I'm sorry.
Mhm. Do you think
Yeah.
that the satanic symbolism they're using is primarily for shock value, or is it spiritually meaningful too, especially to the young members? Do they
I think
actually
it's a shock.
basically believe in their own Kool-Aid?
Um, I don't think so. I think it's just for shock value. I don't think that they actually believe in it. I have to say. I mean, groups like Atomwaffen were ideologically
Mm-hmm.
believing in Satanism, but this new generation, I don't think so. They don't
Mm-hmm.
really know what they're talking about. They can't point to any fundamental books or I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just a shock value. I think it's something to grab at. It's some ideologies they can adopt, but it's not. Yeah, I don't think it's real.
So, what do you think is the difference between these generations? Why do you think the previous generation was ideological and that had that core set of beliefs, while the younger generation is so nihilistic and doesn't have any clear grasp of anything to, anything specific?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, it's a great question. I have no idea. All I can say is that I was researching the Atomwaffen division all through the years as they were progressing and becoming more believer
Mm-hmm.
in Satanism and order. And this generation, I've been following them 5 years now. This whole 764, No Lives Matter. I don't see any ideology other than deep nihilism and hatred towards all the whole society.
To what extent would you say that is the aesthetic of gore and nihilism desensitizing for the younger recruits? And to what extent do you think it's kind of a bravado? In other words, do you think the fact that they use all this gore as imagery really actually makes them less likely to feel empathy or to be shocked by the loss of human life? Or do you think they're just putting it on and they're, if they're actually confronted with real life violence, that would, kind of fall apart.
No, I actually think it's part of kind of an ideological mechanism. I do think
Mhm.
it makes them more able to either commit or to gain pleasure. or yes, I think it has desensitized effect on the members,
Mm-hmm.
that they're becoming more and more. I mean, now I see that they actually active on gore sites. They actually move the activity to sites that share gore, so they would
Mm-hmm.
share videos, and then they would have a like a propaganda video of the group, and um, but I don't think it's just a shock value. I do think that it's part of training the mind to become more vicious or more desensitized to these kind of images.
Is there a specific structured program that they use to kind of um, indoctrinate people, or is it more organic and just happens sort of naturally?
It's very organic. I mean, it's very organic, and they have debates. I mean, if somebody would pull out an image supporting vaping acts, and somebody would oppose, and they would debate them, and they would try some kind of conversation around it. But it's very organic. They would throw in the group whatever they have, and kind of have people deal with it, or kind of debate it or talk about it.
And so does this environment serve as a sort of kind of like a gang initiation, almost like a secondary family for these kids?
I think so. I think it is at a certain point, it's a community that they feel belong to, that shares the same values. Um, I, and a lot of these groups actually require new members to commit violent acts.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sense, it does correspond to becoming a gang member.
Mm-hmm.
That new members need to show that they actually, I don't know, burned down a car, or stabbed someone, or beat someone in an alley.
Mm. So in other words, it follows the typical pattern of these sort of, violent organizations, and but with more,
Some
ideological
of them
rather
do.
than. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some of them do. Some of them follow that. Yeah, and I think they form a community. Yeah, a place that they can speak and talk their mind very freely. Nobody criticizes them, and everybody agrees with them. And
In broader terms, could you speak to the pipeline from the edgy online discourse to real-world terror planning? To what extent, how seamless or incremental is that process? And how many people would you say actually end up going through all the way, and how many people, and does it happen in stages? Does it pause at times for people? How does it work?
I'm not sure. I mean, how many people go through it? I'm not sure. I think there is always, I would estimate there is always a danger that somebody would just flip out and do a terror act. And I think the danger is alive and among us. And there are people who went through the whole stages, and I think that every week, or I find articles about somebody being arrested before they were going to shoot up a synagogue, or I see it a lot actually. So I think a lot. I think the danger is around. How many people have finished the stage? I don't know. What is the pipeline? I'm not sure. Some people stop it after being radicalized and just stay there and say, "Okay, I'm just going to do this thing now. I'm not going to go out and shoot people."
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's all I
Is
can
there
say about that.
is there a particular profile for people who go all the way versus those who just end up being, talkers?
I mean, if there is, I don't know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I mean, because you have people who are older, you have young adults, you have. It's very mixed. It's hard for me to say.
So that's another thing I'm curious about. You have this extremely mixed environment of people of different ages. How does that really work? Are the older individuals serve as basically mentors for the younger kids? How's their dynamic? Are they able to integrate the younger kids smoothly? Is there a rebellion in the ranks?
It's hard for me to answer this because it's a lot of these groups are anonymous, so you don't really know who is older, who is young, who
Mm-hmm.
is. You can see that some people have more experience. You can see that some people have more access to radical literature and to radical PDFs and books and can bring more videos and so that people you can see that have been in this movement for a while compared to newer people who don't have this kind of knowledge and access. I think that the people who've been around for a while and can share literature and can share resources are more active and kind of show the way to people who just coming in, teaching them the terminology, teaching them what they should read, teaching them how they should look at things, what is acceptable, what is not.
Mm-hmm. And do
Yeah,
they all
but I
stay
wouldn't say
anonymous?
it's an
Go ahead.
I wouldn't say it's an age difference. I think it's more of who is more practiced, who's
Mm-hmm.
more been around for a while. Yeah.
Would you say that at some point, let me put it this way, do these groups stay anonymous? Do at some point some members trust each other enough to form offline real life relationships?
Yes, I saw it a number of times, but again, we're talking about international
Mm-hmm.
movement. We're talking about people who are in different countries. So yes, if they live in the same place, or if they want to become active, what is called in real life, yeah, they would form friendship and they would become active. But it's mainly online, and it's international. The chances that people are gonna kind of like one person would fly from Greece to meet a friend in Guatemala. So yeah. Um, but because it's international, it's much more dangerous, I think. I think
Mm.
it's because you never know where that attack is going to come. I know that with Atomwaffen division, they had a forum called Iron March, and they used those international connection to actually try to smuggle arms, weapons from one country to another. So this international can I think is more dangerous than actually a group in real life that you know the members or you can at least
Mm.
know the identities that operate in the boundaries or in the borders of a country. I think it's less dangerous, in my opinion.
Mm. So how difficult is it for the law enforcement to track anonymous members of these international radical groups?
I think it's very difficult. I think that although I understand that Telegram is becoming more cooperative with law enforcement and does provide them with details of users who are dangerous, who showed interest in doing terrorism. But I think it's extremely difficult. I think that anyone can get a cell phone, and it's pretty easy to get like a fake number and open an account on various social media. I think it's very difficult, but this is what investigators do. They track anonymous users and they manage through different clues and different breadcrumbs that user leave in different places to kind of get an identity.
How would you say the media tactics such as graffiti, memes, videos function in the recruitment ecosystem? Is there a particular style that distinguishes one group from another, or do they all basically share the same type of thing?
And I think that I think that a lot of them draw their inspiration regarding propaganda from the artistic style of the Atomwaffen division. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something about this aesthetics that is really appealing to them. And do, do, oh, do some of them do graffiti? I think that some groups demand their members to do graffiti. But yeah, this is what I understand and know about aesthetics, not so much beyond that.
Was there anything that surprised you about the way these people communicated or engaged with the most violent content, especially the younger ones?
No, unfortunately, I have a lot of experience with these groups, and yeah, I mean, no, no, I would say no. Yeah.
Hmm. Have you noticed any crossover between online gaming, alt tech forums, Discord spaces, and the activity of this or other similar groups?
This group, no, but I know that some of these groups are active on gaming platforms such as Roblox, and I know that 764 has been either targeting users over there or trying to recruit young adults from these spaces. Um, so yes, I see this correlation and this movement between gaming platforms and closed groups of what is considered to be the COM 764, No Lives Matters, and other groups.
So here's a question. Given the international nature of this group and many others, people from Turkey, Germany, US, Greece, how are they able to cohere ideologically, given that there is such a vast cultural difference and difference in situations? So does it the fact that they are all basically haters bring them together regardless of cultural differences?
How do they manage to cooperate? I think they share, yes, they share similar ideological motivations, and they manage to share um, material that appeals to people from around the world. They mainly communicate in English. I can tell you that, but
Mm-hmm,
you also see that with the terror acts.
mm-hmm,
You see terror acts by nihilists such as these in Turkey, and you see it in South America, and you see it in Europe. So this, I think, also bonds in this kind of a shared goal, shared aim goal.
Did you find any evidence of cultural tailoring or localized messaging, or is the appeal of the group largely universal and nihilistic? In other
No,
words,
no, no. It's they
mhm,
managed to make the messages localized. Yes, I mean in Turkey you would see them talk about the Arab invasions, about
mhm,
Afghanistan or Syrian migrants coming, and then they would take. It's interesting. They would take propaganda of Atomwaffen and kind of modify it to fit hatreds toward immigrants from Syria or from Afghanistan. And then you see from South America that they would modify it towards hate of other groups. But yeah, they localize the message. That's a good point. They actually make the message to fit their ideology of hate in their immediate countries.
so when they communicate with each other, considering the diversity of these local concerns, how are they able to gain support from their counterparts in other states who are not necessarily concerned with the same problems? Or is it just that the underlying idea that brings, support, even if there is no, even if the concerns themselves are different?
Um, I- it's I don't know. I know, for example, that with Brent and Tarrant, it was a place of discussion because some of them actually support groups like, or this glorified groups like ISIS because they kill people or whatever. They do terror. So for them, somebody to go and kill Muslim was an issue. But I think at the end of the day, they all agrees that everybody should be killed. So, um, but But there are points, I would say, like any movement, of people who disagree with the goal or with what should be done.
Have you seen anyone actually be expelled from these groups?
Yes, if somebody is suspected of being a federal agent by various reasons, then yeah, they would be expelled. If someone is not hardcore, they don't correspond or they show kind of like rejection of core beliefs, then yeah, they would be expelled, definitely.
And they're not afraid that, the infiltrator would come back and, with reinforcements and cause problems.
They are afraid. I mean, they live in a state of kind of like that they are being monitored. Yeah, they are afraid, but it's like you said, they move between the need to expand and bring more people into the community and between the fear of being exposed, of being arrested. Yeah,
Do they ever change the signal groups if they feel like somebody's, got in
yeah.
who
They
wasn't
keep
supposed to? Mhm.
they keep opening. Yeah, they keep closing groups, opening new ones, inventing new names for the groups. Yeah, you can see it very, very clearly with groups like No Lives Matter and 764. So these are just headlines of movement, but inside you have different groups that keep changing the name, keep changing usernames, closing groups are being deleted a lot of times. A lot of time, Signal or Telegram would get notice of this group, shut them down, and they would open a new one. So yeah, it's very, very moving. It's always changing. It's very dynamic.
So when they change groups, how are they able to notify all the trusted members that, who they are and ensure
Sometimes they don't.
security? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes they don't. The group gets shut down in there. A lot of times they would leave a link as a backup group or another. If it's on Discord, they would leave a backup group on Telegram. If it's on Telegram, they would leave a backup group on Signal. If they would play with it around. They would leave maybe a username that they can reopen or kind of play with that people can contact if these groups get shut down. And then the whole process starts from the beginning, vetting, getting people with share ideology, but it's a never-ending game.
Would you say that the appeal of this group, especially to younger people, reflects a deeper generational or global trend in youth disillusionment with existing systems? Or is it simply just basically hatred for the sake of hatred?
It's hard for me. I'm not an expert in it, but I would say yes. I think the new generation is more, yeah, is more hateful. I mean, is less hopeful in this current
Hmm.
state of the world. Yeah.
How do you assess the threat of cross-border operational planning based on what you observed? Are they serious? Do you think they have access to actual stage, a serious terrorist attack, or is it mostly radicalizing, individual lone wolves type of people, and minor attacks are more likely?
And it can be all of them. I think that getting training on building bombs, from what I observed, can be very easy once you get a hold of it. I mean, if you have a PDF and you kind of practice and you get the knowledge, then that's it. You have a weapon. And I think in America, in places like America, it's very easy to get a weapon. So the access to these arms is easier. And
Mhm.
I think the training is more on a lone wolf, and I mean, and just killing with whatever you have. So in Europe, you have more attacks with knives or
Mhm.
stuff like that. Yeah, but I would say, yeah.
So you obviously have had to look at a lot of disturbing content and dehumanizing material. How were you able to protect yourself from just being either yourself desensitized or overwhelmed by this imagery and this content?
Uh, I try to practice meditation, although I don't succeed with it very well. I do a lot of exercise. I maintain a healthy diet, and I think at the end of the day, I know that what I'm doing is for the benefit of society. That what I'm doing is to protect other people and to save lives. And I think that this is what enables me to continue or not to be affected by all these images and stuff. Yeah,
What reactions have you received, either from the public or law enforcement after publication?
I haven't. I saw. I don't. I haven't got any response yet. Not in this. I published a blog in my private blog about this sextortion guide. That is very alarming. It's like 290 pages, and it teaches people how to find the victims, particular in Snap. Um, and that was actually, I got a lot of response from the public. I mean, from people who are asking me questions, and some people in law enforcement who are asking me where they can find the guide so they can train investigators, and some people who are doing research now contact me also because they want to kind of produce. So, but with regard to the Milaklovich group, or I didn't get any respond. I think that a lot of people read it, but I don't know more than that.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it is quite a shocking story. Um, at any point, did you feel you were witnessing the planning of an imminent act of mass violence, or did it not really get to that point?
Well, I mean, one of the screenshots that I included was of a person who was saying that he's going to shoot up his school, and other people were actually recommended him to target a synagogue or mosque. And I inform whoever needs to be informed, and
Mhm.
that's what I can do. And this is what the point was a point that I felt was becoming very, very dangerous.
Mm. And you think that those people probably have the access to the weapons to actually go through with whatever they're doing? It's
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I would say so. Yes. I mean, and if not, they would share ideas with each other of
sure.
how to gain those weapons.
Do you
Yeah.
think we're entering a new era of youth extremism, less organized but more volatile than we've seen previously?
Yes, I do
So
think so.
would that make it harder to predict or easier, like because it's less organized, but on the other hand, kind of
I think it would make it harder to predict. I think that online activity is becoming more and more anonymous. There is always a new social media platform that people can communicate through, share ideas, and I think it's becoming harder and harder to predict and stop this kind of activity, especially when we're talking about wolf attacks.
So, this has been asked a million times, and every time I don't get a satisfying answer because, every time there's something new. How can educators, parents, community leaders recognize early signs of involvement in groups like this? You know, because it's anonymous and kids you know, take measures
Yeah,
to protect their
yeah.
identities from being, you know, do they, how can someone tell that somebody has those leanings, is getting involved in some social media or private group?
Yeah. I think talk to the kids, try to get their idea and understanding, try to understand what they're feeling or thinking about stuff. I think there's a lot of red flags that if you talk to someone and he tells you stuff, you can recognize and understand. This is my advice, but again, I'm not a counselor. I don't really know
Mhm.
how to. I mean, obviously, at a certain age, kids' laptops or activity online should be monitored. It's until a certain age, and after that, parents should talk to their kids and try to get to know them, to get to know what they're thinking, what they're doing, what is their interest, ideology.
To this day, there's still a lot of people on the left and on the right who dismiss each other's radicalization groups as something that's, oh, it's just kids talking tough, or it's marginal, it's not really mainstream. What do you say to all these people? Because they clearly not missing the seriousness of their radical appeal.
Well, that we see a rise in uh, in politically motivated terrorism. I mean, it's not just hysteria. It's actually happening in this world. We see people who are getting arrested before they do any terror activity, and we see more and more terror activity directed at people and harm done based on these communities. It's not just it doesn't stay online. There is activity in the real world that kills or abuse people. It's not just imaginary.
Mm. Finally, what do you think society needs to urgently understand that it currently misunderstands about the youth radicalization today?
Um, yes, I mean we're talking about out of the hundreds of millions, billions of youth, we're talking about a niche. We're talking about a small group
Mm-hmm.
that creates a lot of damage, but it's not all use. It's not something. I'm sure that there is a lot of good kids who use Facebook, use Signal, and they're fine and they're okay. I think there is a niche movement of young adults or people who exploit young adults that society and law enforcement and social media should pay more attention to. Yes.
How far are we from developing some way of, you know, to essentially track people who are in danger of being, attracted to radical ideology early on, before, they when an intervention can be made in a meaningful way, and before they actually commit any sort of irreversible act. Because as far as I see, schools are often overwhelmed, parents are busy, there's a
Mm.
lot of distractions, there's a lot of noise. It's hard to keep track of individuals and figure out when they've gone off track.
Yes, I would agree with you. I think it's extremely hard. And I think it's also it's not only schools or parents. I think it's social media should trace people who exhibit different signs of radicalization or self-harm or depression. I think all this stuff should social media should do a better job. I think law enforcement should do a better job. But I think it's extremely difficult, and yeah, it's non-existent at the current state of things. I think that there are a lot more that should be done.
Just to end this, we're seeing a lot of heated political rhetoric from adults, not who are not necessarily violent or, hateful or radical, but who use polarizing language, who are less likely to engage in nuanced, mature discussions, and less likely to be accepting of beliefs that challenge their thinking. To what extent is this a contributing an accelerant or catalyst to youth radicalization?
I don't know, but it is really alarming. I think that we're living in an age where facts don't matter, and people
Mm-hmm.
just believe what they believe without any, it doesn't, without any substance, and they just stick to these views, and they are not willing um, even with presented with contrary evidence to let those go, and it's very frightening. It's very alarming. How does this contribute to the groups that I follow? I assume that a lot of people who start with kind of like believing that the government is controlled by I don't know, but by the ruling class or by the rich, might find themselves drifting further away to say, well, it's not just the rich, it's the Jews. And if the Jews control society, then we need to fight them. And if we need to fight them, then we need to. But so yeah, I can see some correlation between those both. So people are not open to a debate and a conversation. Yeah. I mean, and they say it with the groups that I follow all the time. Any evidence, any story that they find, I mean, is just reinforces their views, you know? I mean, for them all, I mean, just an example, for them, all the Jews are rich millionaires who control the government. And then even if they see an example of a person who is not Jewish, who is
Mm-hmm.
rich, who is very influential in the government, it doesn't change anything. It's so, you know, and then we say, oh, okay, but he's also controlled by the Jews. So it's just, yeah, people I feel are not open for a debate.
Finally, what's next for you? After concluding this investigation, are you going to continue tracking these groups or are you moving to some other new emerging threat?
No, I'm going to continue following these groups. I'm working now on an article about so the FBI issued a public announcement regarding these groups. I mean, 764 and other groups that are part of this ecosystem. And I'm writing about that, and I'm giving some examples of these groups, how they operate, and after that, I'm going to publish probably an article about a new newspaper published by neo-Nazis. That is distributed in online. But yeah, I'm going to continue with this thing, and we'll see how far I can do it.
Thank you so much for the important work you're doing and for this really enlightening, although I have to admit, disturbing conversation. I hope that it helps bring more people, more awareness to more people about what is happening and, of course, about your investigation and hopefully help people kind of get their kids away from these influences and towards something more constructive with their lives. For those watching us, we'll be back next week, Tuesday evening, 9 p.m. as usual. And thanks for everyone who joined us for this great conversation tonight. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.